Dragon's Dogma 2 has finally launched on PC and consoles, the epic RPG from Capcom, one that is promising an incredible world of magic and swords and just all kinds of awesome things. It launched to glowing reviews, hitting a massive 90 on Metacritic for PC. So why the hell is everyone so mad at Dragon's Dogma 2? Well, it turns out there's a very good reason, and it's actually not just the performance issues, which we already knew about going in. We have to ask, well, is the game itself bad, beyond the performance issues? Well, the gameplay has been satisfying and impressive. It has had some bumps and bruises, but those bumps and bruises are expected of Dragon's Dogma, and by extension, even of Capcom. And sadly, the expected of Capcom might actually be the telling part of the negative reviews. And well, this review from JC over on Steam kind of says a lot. Hey Capcom, you can purchase a good review DLC for $1.99. This game costs $70. And there's microtransactions. Dragon's Dogma 2 included a couple of minor microtransactions for, I guess, shits and giggles. And I'm left here scratching my head as to why. Okay, well, no, I know why. We all know why. Fucking greed. And that's why I'll say yes, before we get too far into this, yes, people have a right to be upset. People have a right to be voicing their displeasure with this because, again, this is a full-priced premium game. If that's a thing, we're calling AAA titles premium games, whatever. It's a game that costs $70. And they have microtransactions. To put that in perspective, this game is more expensive than Baldur's Gate 3 without the microtransactions. But to further explain why this is so ridiculous and why people have the right to be upset despite the game, and I will say this, the game is good. It is a good game. So people leaving bad reviews, well, we have to go a little bit more into Capcom's history and what exactly the microtransactions are in Dragon's Dogma 2. All of the microtransactions, with a few small exceptions, are found pretty easily in-game. They're items like Rift Crystals, which allow you to recruit higher level pawns or buy appearance changes, which is also found in-game. Wake Stones, which allow you to revive after you die, are also found in-game. I know, I've used one because I suck at this game. Camping Kits, which cost a whopping 1,000 gold. Which might sound like a lot, but it is roughly your first 30 minutes of your game, or looting 2 or 3 NPCs once you're a few hours in. They're all cheap too, between 99 cents and $4.99. If you were to buy all of them for some reason, which because some of them overlap, you'd be paying $41.79. And it's all just stupid. It's so damn stupid and greedy, very, very greedy. Which I guess is all very Capcom at this point. It's added another frustration that probably pushed their potential success down in hopes of making a few bucks off someone too lazy to progress, saving players a couple hours, maybe, in a game that is not about saving time. I have to stress that here. This isn't some MMO where you're trying to rush to the end game. Buying these microtransactions actively makes your game worse because it's cutting out the actual game part of it. It's like cheat codes you had for games in the 90s, but you're paying for it. And for those of you unfamiliar of why I keep saying this, like, well, it's a Capcom thing and why I'm referencing it as like, Capcom's an issue. Well, it's because they've done this before already with Monster Hunter games, as well as the freaking Resident Evil 4 remake. Although with the Resident Evil 4 remake, there was a bit more controversy around that, perhaps because they announced them 2 weeks after the game had launched. And they're stunningly familiar to the ones in Dragon's Dogma 2. As Den of Geek puts it regarding the Resident Evil 4 microtransactions, you can pay money to skip some of Resident Evil 4 Remake's unlocks, but you're missing out on one of the best parts of the game. This is all part of a growing problem and trend of microtransactions getting into places where they previously weren't, where they previously were not really allowed by the customer base. And it's all on top of Capcom, which is leading the charge in a lot of ways to raise the prices of video games. Back at the Tokyo Game Show in 2023, Capcom's president Haruhiro Sugimoto said development costs are about 100 times higher than during the Famicom era, but software prices have not gone up that much. There is also a need to raise wages, considering the fact that wages are rising in the industry as a whole. I think raising unit prices is a healthy option for business. Just because there's a recession doesn't mean you won't go to a movie theater or go to your favorite artist's concert. High quality games will continue to sell. Yes, high quality games will continue to sell. They do. It's part of just make a good game and people will buy it, because it is a good value in most cases. Although you could argue that there's a lot of other good entertainment value things as well. So why then do you need to combine multiple ways? Why then does Capcom need to try and double dip in this? And don't tell me that it's because of wages. Games have been stuck at the $60 price point for some time, but with the new generation of consoles that's pushed these games up to $70, like Dragon's Dogma 2. But Capcom is double dipping here. They're taking the elevated price plus ridiculous microtransactions. But they are ridiculous, right? They're things that no one actually needs to buy, and the people that are buying them are, more likely than not, hurting themselves in the long run because they're making the game less of a game. They are skipping chunks of the game in a single player game. You are getting less value for your money in a sense, not just because you bought the microtransactions, but if you consider the value of a game, the hours of entertainment it provides you, well, this is you're paying to take that away. You're paying to take away some of that time away in a game that is made to be this way. And I think that's what we need to talk about. Because if you start doing stuff like this, you're gonna start having, as we have seen in the MMO space, I think it's a good place to look at, that games will purposefully make things suck more in the game to make you more likely to buy the microtransactions. Just because it's silly to buy right now in this game, there's gonna be someone there that says, well, if we tweak this drop rate a little bit, make it a little worse, if we make this currency a little bit more scarce that you need to progress in the game, but then we also sell it for real money, someone's gonna buy it. And then another someone's gonna buy it. They don't need many people to buy these things, just a couple. And then the ball just rolls downhill. I mean, at this point, I think game publishers would get less of a frustrated blowback if they just freaking had a tip thing. Like, just swivel it around like you do at Starbucks and ask for the tip when we're buying the game, because at least in that case, we know that you're not making the game worse to get people to buy things. Because that will always be the fear when it comes to microtransactions, that the game will be actively made more annoying, more frustrating, more grindy to make you want to buy the things, to give incentive to buy those things. Saying you can earn them in game doesn't work, because when you can earn them in game, but it takes you thousands of hours versus $10, that's not the same. In fact, that's why so many people fled Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront and Battlefront 2, because it was ridiculous what you had, but you could, hey, it wasn't pay to win because you could unlock it. There's a frustration here, and it's a valid frustration because it is indicative of the entire market and why it is so frustrating to see, especially after we just had a year where the game that won everything was fucking Baldur's Gate 3. And they won everything because they were upfront. They were very clear. You get this game, here is your full game. No microtransactions, no bullshit. And the experience of it itself is what sold. And one of the worst parts of all this is it just feels so unnecessary. Because Dragon's Dogma 2 is a good game. I have already put in over 10 hours in the game, and it launched yesterday. It's a good game. To me, it's not gonna come anywhere close to like Baldur's Gate 3 for me or Dragon Age Origins, but it is still a very good RPG, and it is a much improved RPG from the old Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. So it's just so frustrating that now it's being marred by microtransactions when it really didn't have to be. it still would have probably had lower reviews based off performance, something that we learned about before the game even launched, and that I covered in this video here, where they kind of delve into what the performance issues were and how to maybe fix them, although honestly there's a lot of issues. My name is Redwood Flynn, thank you so much for watching, and please don't buy those microtransactions. Just please don't. You don't need them. I promise. You can get the Rift crystals. Just you know, you can spend that money. You could go and like use it on and buy a coffee or an energy drink to stay up and play the game some more, or you can buy an indie game. Just don't buy those.